You're listening to the Ballet Piano Podcast, lifting the lid on dance accompaniment.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to this episode of the Ballet Piano Podcast. The full team are around the kitchen table with me today, and that includes my beautiful wife, Akiko Hobson.
Hello.
My beautiful friend, Matt Gregory.
Hola.
And my only other beautiful friend in the room, Mr. David Yao.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. How is everybody on this sweltering Sunday? It's 25
it's
degrees as we
lovely.
record this.
Hurrah. Yeah, this weather doesn't like gingers, but it's fine.
The weather doesn't, but the rest of us do.
Oh, bless. It's lovely.
We're going to have, the title for this episode is very wordy. Communication between ballet pianists and ballet teachers. It's not a succinct title, but I couldn't think of a different way to summarize the episode.
We've talked about communication before, though, but
We have,
this is
but
slightly different.
This is a specific one. I think that it was Akiko who actually came up with the episode idea, wasn't it? So Akiko, do you want to explain your thought process?
I just thought about the communication. The episode was more like how to communicate on the spot in a class rehearsal with the teachers in a healthy environment. And then, if you work in the ballet and especially in the same place for a long time, sometimes you come across the situation that you are right and whatever is going on in the studio is wrong. But as a pianist, we can't just stop the rehearsal and say, well, I don't think that's correct. You can't say that.
Yeah.
So how do you address that? Or if you're not sure, because we can't really voice loud in a class. Or have an argument or some sort of conflict with the dancers or teachers.
I think one of the big parts of being a ballet pianist is knowing when to speak up and what to say and when to say it. Because I've always said, we have to be the unsung hero in the corner. You just finish the sentences, metaphorically for the teachers, dot the I's, cross the T's, all those things, but do it in a sort of really subservient, humble way. But as you say, Akiko, sometimes that something's not quite right.
Yeah, because if you prayed for this production for many times, you know it. So I was asked one of my colleagues, like my advice, that she said, I've been playing for this rehearsal and this particular step, I know it's on the wrong timing and whoever is setting the ballet is wrong. And she even went further more to check different version, body show version, everything on the YouTube to check maybe there's a different version and she couldn't find, and she thinks she is 99.99% right. Unless this teacher decided to change it.
Right.
But so she wanted to address it. But she was like, what would you do? So my first advice to her was that if it doesn't affect the music, if the music just goes on and if they're just doing the wrong timing, it's not pianist's problem. And so it might get found out later in the rehearsal that they might fix it, but I wouldn't just say anything and I just keep playing. But if it does affect the music, and then you do have to know. Yeah. And then in that case, I probably ask outside the studio personally, like a question style that, instead of, I think this is wrong, I said, can I just clarify this?
Yeah.
When is the timing? What's happening? Because I'm not quite entirely sure. I think I probably start off from that because in the end of the day, we are not ballet dancers or ballet teachers, and everybody knows that we can't dance. So
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
You've seen me dance in that kitchen. You know it.
But the people setting these ballets, would they perceive you as getting out of your box and saying too much if you spoke up? Is that what you're worried about?
I don't know, but in the end, because I don't do ballet, so in the end of the day, they can just tell me that, but you don't dance.
Yeah.
So, how do you know?
But if this is a piece that you played a lot of before, so you have experience, then I think your input is as valuable as the steps themselves. So I think that the way you went about it was a really good way of going about it, about that questioning kind of to clarify whatever. And I hope that outside then you'd be able to have that conversation with whoever it was.
Yeah.
Can we look at this?
Yeah. But that's another thing, isn't it? Because I know you very well, David. So there's no problem addressing it, and we can look at it together. But if you're not that friend with...
I mean, I think just thinking what you just said, the first thing I think for any situation, regardless of what it is you don't address anything that's even semi-conflicty or contentious in a studio. I think whether you're a teacher or a pianist, the studio is not the place where you ever do that, because it just shouldn't happen. I think that is a golden rule for every professional, isn't it? It does not happen in the ballet studio in front of the rest of the company or the rest of the school or the trainees, whoever you're playing for. It happens in a private space away where you can speak, whether you're friends and you get on really well, or you are simply colleagues because you don't get on personally, whatever it is. It happens privately, doesn't it? It doesn't happen sort of in a public space. I think that's the first lesson about anything. And then after that, does it come down to your relationship with the teacher or the rehearsal director as to actually how you would address certain issues like that? I mean, say, if we go on to, a sort of parallel example, if you like, if we reference, say, I don't know, a vocational school assessment, and a teacher wants a specific piece of music and they've choreographed it in their head to a specific piece of music, but the pianist knows that actually something else would work better. How would you deal with that? I might, depending on who it was, if it was David, I'd say, David, I think that's great what we do. Let's do this for the first group. Can we try this for the second group as well and see how it goes? If it falls flat on its backside, then I'm sorry, it doesn't work, but do you mind if we give it a go? And 9 times out of 10, you would say yes. So, there's different ways of approaching these scenarios, if you like. It's almost like we're all psychologists or psychiatrists.
It is really.
It's difficult because
But you're the one with a degree, David, aren't you?
But you're absolutely right. It's not what you say, it's how you say it that makes the difference, and when you say it. And I think the suggestions that you've made here are really, really good and really relevant. And there have to be, it helps both sides if there are avenues that you can go and different ways you can do it, rather than hit, as you said before, hit things head on. Because that doesn't, when emotions get involved, it's much more difficult to solve whatever you're trying to do. I agree with you.
And I think what you said about emotions, and this is a sweeping generalization, so please forgive me, but because ballet is so personal and passionate for the people who do it and the people who teach it, I find that sometimes you've got to be very careful, effectively, as a musician, as an outsider, if you like, because I'm not a dancer and I have never been and I never will be. So I don't have that. I love ballet and I love our job, but I don't have that same passion for ballet that you have, or a repetiteur has, or something like that, because ballet's never been in my body. So finding out how you address that situation, and it's true, it's a passion and it's an emotion in there, so you've got to be very wary of that as a pianist.
But conductors have never danced ballets, but they're so important in the rehearsal room and at the performance, obviously.
The whole thing is a collaboration. We all have to remember that. And I think having modes of operating and working things out is so important, because otherwise you do get so passionate about something that tempers get frayed and before you know it, you're at loggerheads. So I think absolutely that there needs to be a way of doing things that helps you. And I think that, being, politically correct and all of those, and being empathic really is really important.
Have any of you ever had to have an awkward chat outside the studio where something really dreadful happened in the studio, but you thought, okay, I can't do this now, I'll do it outside afterwards? Have you ever had to have that chat?
I learnt the hard way. I said before
because I've sort of clapped back a little bit sometimes in the studio. In a sort of banter way, though, with tongue in cheek,
bring humor
to say, I've got my defences up here. You're giving me a hard time. So at the odd time, nothing serious enough to say, well, we need to have a chat outside afterwards. Nothing like that. But
But having something up your sleeve that you can diffuse the situation with, I think is really important. I think
yeah,
humour is
like
a good
humour,
one.
Yeah.
Or just say, can we just talk about this later?
Yeah.
That'd be easier.
Yeah, we can't
And then
sort this
carry
out
on.
right here now.
Exactly.
We need to sort it out
Yes,
later. I think I've learned this more as I've got older because I used to be too open with how I was feeling. So if I got a bit annoyed or a bit frustrated with something, or I was getting annoyed in the class, I wouldn't say anything, but I showed it. I showed it in how I was playing. I think my body showed it. The lack of then communication showed it.
Yeah.
And I realized actually what I needed to do in my mid-20s was grow up, and I needed a slap around the face and realize that actually you are a professional in there. You can't be going around with a face like a slapped arse. Even if you're unhappy, you can simply suck it up and get on with it. And if it really is that big of an issue, you can speak about this outside.
Yeah.
You're only in the class most of the time for 90 minutes or, at a vocational school, maybe 2 hours, but you're not in there for a long time. You can suck it up and then sort it out outside. And the amount of times I had to apologise for I'm very sorry, I was very tired in there. I was having a diabetic attack. So I think the way that you said, Akiko, about asking a question to sort of, I don't know, maybe prove a point or to get the right answer is another way to go.
Yeah, I always think, so there was a teacher I used to play for, and she was saying to her student, this is not a criticism, it's an observation. And I always say that to myself when something like this happened, that nobody likes criticism. So if you talk to somebody, not in a ballet situation, anyway, as if you're criticizing somebody, and then they immediately goes defense mode, and they immediately dislike you. So you have to find a way that you're not criticizing this person or whatever this person did, but the way that, I just noticed, how about this kind of.
And some people always want to have the answer. So that's why how that question thing is a good idea, because you're letting them come back with the solution.
Yeah.
And that's, gives them the power and have that they have more of the knowledge of this situation.
Because I don't want to have the situation that, they had to change it, they have to do something because the pianist said so. So it needs to be solved within the ballet people in a way. Even if I think I'm correct. They have to come to the term that, this is it. So I'm just there to, clarify things. That's and also facial expression.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about my facial expressions.
Might help
you could do a
little
reel just about those, couldn't you?
But actually, all three of us, we are very good at showing exactly what we think on our faces. That's the problem.
Unfortunately.
It's got me into trouble sometimes in the past because I can't hide it because the emotions.
Me too.
It's just on there.
Too. But we're artists as well.
Yeah.
And humans.
Yes, totally.
We're not a Spotify playlist.
No.
But it does help if you can become a good friend with the teachers outside the studio.
Nobody wants that rapport more than me with the teacher. Because I think that just makes for a fantastic class.
Yeah.
I'll never put that barrier up personally. It will come from the teacher. If they want to be distant, that's up to them.
Yeah.
But you want to get each other on side because that's just going to benefit you both in class.
Yeah, I try to sit with, teachers like in the free time to chat about just daily stuff, so you get to know this person and it's a little bit easier to approach in both sides. And one of the pianists I worked with, like she or he,
they
just never around, and she or he doesn't really talk much and just turns up to the class. And a lot of teachers said, but they just don't understand this person.
Right.
And it is a bit difficult to communicate, I think. So I just try to be more human.
Yeah, if you're in a school or a company and you're working with the same people pretty much day in, day out, you've got to have some form of
You have to get on.
relationship, haven't you? Even if you wouldn't choose necessarily to have that person as a friend, you're going to spend just as much time with them or more than you do with your family.
Yes. And you learnt that when you started in the Western Hemisphere, didn't you?
Yes, very much so.
No, I don't mean to call you out. But
No, it's true.
and I'm sure we've all been in those situations where you think, oh, I'm in this. Oh, let's say I'm on this summer course with this person. I've got the whole week with them.
Yeah.
And we're not getting, oh, that's somebody I've worked with and now I've got to spend a whole week with them.
Yeah.
You've got to find some common ground, haven't you?
Yeah.
And I like having friends as well. And I like having a good time. I mean, we said this, I've said it loads this year. I don't want to go to work to have a rubbish time. I want to go because I want to go and be the best that I can be. And I want to have fun.
Yeah.
Like, you don't become a dancer or a musician or any form of artist because it's laborious and you hate it. You do it, I'd hope, or most people
you would
do it
become an
because
accountant,
you want
wouldn't
to,
you?
Yeah.
If you just wanted to pay.
I was going to say, yeah, if I wanted to be bored at work, I'd be an orchestral librarian or something. Because that went so well.
But like even the guests, like I actually quite a few months ago, we had a guest person who said one of the production that we are performing later on of the year. And he said one particular ballet, and I was playing for the rehearsal. And prior to the rehearsal, I was given the video of the production, which, we performed years ago. So I learned it based on this video. And there was one section that I had to slow down. And I watched the video to make sure what's going on and how much. And then I kept doing this, what's on the video. And then every time in the rehearsal, this guy was like, no, it's not that slow. Then I couldn't quite understand the timing, but what I understand was he wanted a bit faster, not much slower. But I didn't quite understand the timing for 2 or 3 rehearsals. But meanwhile, in the staff room, I became, not friend, but, we talked as a person and started to get to know each other. So on the Thursday in the break, I just showed him the video I had. So this is what I am understanding. And he was like, no, this is wrong.
So it was clear then.
Yeah. And then finally, I understand what he wanted. But I didn't actually, I left it for like 2-3 days to know him, how I can approach him to ask him questions. So yeah.
But it's a difficult thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because you think you're right, and then yeah.
But asking questions is such a good idea.
It's important.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Nobody has all the answers.
Yeah.
David does.
But the thing is, when you're responsible
Well,
for
David,
something.
were you like Pettipar's choreographic muse or something? Sorry.
But when you're responsible for putting something on, there is such a pressure on you. But just taking a breath and just taking a step back, as you said, and just realizing that it is a collaboration and that, you need everybody's input to make it work is important. So even if you are in charge of it, you still have to have that empathy of understanding that everybody's contribution is important. And it's not just you do what I tell you kind of thing. Those days are gone.
Yeah.
It's really important that we all come together and, at the end, you get the result you're after if you go along those lines. But if you keep pushing people in the wrong way, then you're bound to come to loggerheads. Really.
I mean, I've experienced it sometimes in the past where I have said to a teacher, it's like, the pianist isn't out to get you.
Yeah.
The pianist is there to effectively do what you ask and support you and help you train your students better. And it's like, there's no vendetta. Pianists don't have a vendetta. We're just there to play and support and be good and, to be effectively like a support teacher.
And I've had those situations. Can't believe I'm going to say this. Because I love ballet as well.
Yeah.
And I'm always interested in what the teacher has to say. I'm always fully engaged because it interests me as well as it being the job. But sometimes a teacher will just say something and I'm alienated and they can't get me back.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think you've just said something which absolutely negates what we're here to do. And for the next 40 minutes, that's it. I'm just going to dial it in. And that's me. That's my emotion.
Yeah.
I could try and be professional and get back on it, but on a human level, you've just upset me.
Yeah, but I mean,
and I'd done nothing to do,
but you're not, I mean, you say you dial it in, you're not actually dialing it in, are you? You're still doing it. You're still doing the job. You're not, you're still giving effectively, like you always give 110%. So you might now be
but
giving,
just with a miserable face for the next 40 minutes.
Exactly. So, you're still giving it. You are still professional. You're always professional. But yeah, so I'm going to take on board, Akiko, for once, one of your suggestions, which is if there is ever an issue, I'm going to try and approach it in a different way and ask a question about it.
And your body language and facial expression, Christopher?
I've sorted that out a long time ago. Right, ladies and gentlemen, please do get in contact with us on social media at Ballet Piano Podcast on Instagram or Facebook. Or if you prefer to email, we are balletpianopodcast@gmail.com. Let us know if you've ever had any situations, how you deal with them, if you think our advice was good or if you think it was a load of rubbish. Please do let us know.
I've got a little call to action. Listeners, if you are really enjoying the podcast, can you give us some stars on the podcast app? Write us a little review because it pushes us up, doesn't it?
Yes.
Give us some 5-star reviews on the podcast app if you are loving it.
We would love that.
Loving it, loving it, loving it.
Thank you so much. So listen, it's sunshiny. Let's go and have a picnic in the Thames Barrier Park. So until next time, listeners, thank you very much for joining us. It's goodbye from me.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.